Going live. All right, hello YouTube. Sorry, anyone that is generally looking for the social media blast because I forgot to get one ready. Had a couple things going sideways as we were getting ready to go live here. So, but we are here live now. What feels like a long time since we've done a normal roundtable, and I was going back through it. Yeah, we had the went through the keyhole discussion, and then I believe the one before that was with Max, where we talked about the other. What was the list we went through on that?
Top 10 Dark Tower characters.
Yeah. So I was looking through the notes just to see, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's why it feels because it's so long since it's been a normal episode."
It's been a minute
because it has been quite a handful of minutes since we've recorded a normal roundtable here. But yeah, let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
All right, hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 141. So let's see. This is not the one where we're actually changing it up. So this is what people would have been expecting. The next time, though, next episode
is going to be another roundtable.
Yes. So let's go ahead and dive into the normal stuff first, and we'll go through the housekeeping stuff. First of all, I want to warn you about spoilers. There will be a number of spoilers for some random things, but primarily the Dark Tower series, the 7 primary books, the Dark Tower series. If you haven't finished the entire series, you may want to not listen to the roundtables and stick to our book club episodes. In those episodes, we stay where we're at or before, outside of a very small section at the end, which we warn you about. We don't talk about spoilers in those episodes. In these ones, though, spoilers are everywhere.
Yep.
And yeah, there's a few different random King things that we'll be talking about too, including where we got an interview as part of a King's publicity for Holly, and I will say there's light spoilers for Holly. Like, I mean, it literally the interview came out the day of the book, so like I feel like if a large place like Rolling Stones is going to publish this, I don't think we have to worry about it too much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is a spoiler warning. Then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify. You can also find us on Amazon Music, Audible, or anywhere podcasts are found. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. It always helps the show. And then if you want to join us live on the YouTube side, we live stream these shows every fortnight, every other week. And if you'd like to join us live with those, or if you want to go back and watch, I mean, it's been a couple years worth of live streams now. You can do all that over at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver.
Yeah.
Over here, if you are with us, if you want to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Because, for instance, we just realized as we were going live for this one, somehow I always just duplicate these shows. And, you know, like this one I duplicated from 140, that one I duplicated from 139. I don't know when the hell I actually set the settings the last time. It's been a long time. But somehow this one changed to 3 p.m. instead of 2 p.m. We've been doing 2 p.m. for all year now, basically, because we started
when we did
in February.
Yeah, when we started the other show and everything like that.
Yeah, so I have no idea why, but ultimately, if you were looking, it would have said 3 o'clock, but right in the last few minutes, I killed that one and then rebuilt a new one, because, of course, YouTube's not smart enough to let you just edit the start time. So those kind of things would help your notifications to let you know. Also, because of a few things like that were going wrong right before we were getting ready to go live, I forgot the social media blasts, cry your pardon about that. But again, with notifications, you don't need the social media blasts. And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do that over at darktowerpalaver.com, as well as that is the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. That is the spoke in the center of the wheel for our show.
Yeah.
We have links to everything over there, including the questions for new listeners. You can answer one of those, all of those, whatever. We just find that a good primer for new listeners to introduce yourself. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. There has been a lot of discussion in our Discord. You get access to the Discord, so you can chat all the time, as well as monthly hangouts. There's been all kinds of fun shenanigans happening.
There's currently a poll pinned to the messages on Discord for what our next monthly hangout should be about.
Yeah. So if you want to find that, you can find it over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We have a couple different levels. The Discord, definitely, if you want to send emojis to Peter 7 days a week, you could certainly do that over there at on the Discord through the Patreon.
No.
And then Peter can let you know how to contact the show if you would like to do that.
The best way is through email. You can email us at darktowerpalaver@gmail.com, or at our new email, it's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then check out our social media that's had forgetfulness, precedes him in his old age.
I feel like it's been a minute since I forgot the social media blast.
I don't think you've ever really forgotten the social media blast. Other things,
it's been a while at least.
Yeah.
But I think when I first started doing them, I was a little bit hit or miss. But
you got in the routine.
Yeah, it's actually even part of my prep. Generally speaking,
yeah,
is I go and actually just create the posts and just have them in a draft form, and then just hit send as we get ready to actually go live. So I completely forgot that while doing prep.
That's fine.
And then a couple North Central Positronics shenanigans
Glitches,
happening right before we were going live, so I had no time to throw them up on the fly.
They're trying to mess with us. But our Twitter is, do I still call it Twitter? Is it officially X?
It's Twitter. It'll always
We're always going to call it, okay.
Yeah.
Our Twitter is @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. Our Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. Instagram is DarkTowerPalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/DarkTowerPalaver. Go get yourself a hashtag Tad is Terrible shirt or a sticker.
Or the classic logo.
Poster or a mug or any of those things.
Or the classic logo.
I'm going to put one on your car. I'm going to get a sticker and I'm going to put it on your car.
You know, it's funny because we think alike. I was thinking about putting a specific sports team on your car.
Oh, that's messed up, dude. Oh, I would never do that to you. That's messed up.
I thought about it. I didn't say I was going to do it. I just said the thought crossed my mind.
I would. I see. No thought has ever crossed my mind for that. So how dare you?
Oh man. Hey, in my defense, it would have just been America's team.
Oh God. Oh.
It could be worse for you. It could be worse.
Ugh.
All right, and then the next thing, hi, Alan in the chat. Looks like at least Alan has found us without the social media blast. That's good. The only other thing I wanted to talk about announcements-wise before we we already kind of alluded to it, we are actually jumping back to having roundtables at the beginning of the month. So next episode in a fortnight will not only be a roundtable, and then we'll be back on track of every other show, but also that episode we are going to be in Randyland. With our reactions, we will be freshly returned from the It escape room. When we go to record the show, it'll be very...
I have an update on that for you.
It'll be very fresh. The other part of that is I actually did throw it on the slides for Geekery Abides, but we don't necessarily have a slide for next time on for Dark Tower Palaver. So I do want to say the start time for next episode, which is 2 weeks from now, might be a little bit later just because of... time for the escape room and then to get back to the hotel and start recording. So we will keep you updated, but most likely it is going to be at least an hour late from what we normally do.
We gotta figure out the time zone difference too, because we're gonna be in Pacific time instead of Mountain time in Nevada.
Yeah, we'll just go off our same time still, like our
Mountain time.
Yeah, that's normal for.
We just have to remember to add an hour when we're down there.
Oh yeah.
So we're going live at 3, but it's really 2. All that kind of shenanigans.
Indeed. That is all we have announcements wise there. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Also on the extended quartet count list, Holly is indeed there and live.
I actually looked at that right before we went live because you mentioned you were pulling up like tabs and stuff like that. Okay, there's the extended content count. I was like, has he gone and marked that off for both of us? I went and checked, and you have. So.
Yes, indeed, I did.
Well
Not too long ago, but
Yeah.
I did. But yeah, that is now updated with Holly. I actually had built it Holly in there, and I built some kind of formula where it didn't count it until the day of, and I went and checked. It is working, so we are now currently standing at 75 Stephen King books, according to our list.
75? I thought it was 75 before.
No, 74.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah. So that is updated. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Let me.
Got a bunch of news to catch up on.
Yeah, I mean, and it's actually not as much. I mean, I think the strikes have slowed news down a little bit.
Yeah.
I will throw out there that the rumors are that there's some decent talks happening yesterday and today. So let's hope that can get resolved. People can get paid the way they should be, and
not have their likeness used by AI for centuries to come.
unless
fucking ridiculous,
unless they
dude.
sell it. I mean, James Earl Jones allegedly has sold his Darth Vader
His
voice to
his Darth Vader voice. He didn't sell his voice. He sold Darth Vader's voice. So
Yeah, which is
he sold a character though.
Yeah.
But he didn't sell his character in Patriot games. He didn't sell his character in Lion King and all those
Sandlot.
things. Sandlot, yeah. All of those ones can't be used over and over again. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing we want to talk about is the Dark Tower graphic novel Omnibus. We kind of anticipated this happening. We covered it within the last year. That it was what was their names? Gallery 13 gained the publishing rights for the Dark Tower comic books. We covered that within the last year sometime. It's been a while now, but my anticipation at the time, I remember even saying that most likely what we're going to end up seeing is a republishing of these, which was nice because they have been out of print for a while. They are indeed coming. So this is from Brendan Hess from GameSpot on September 20th, 2023. So the article talks about how the graphic novel adaptation of the Dark Towers series are being released as 3 hardcover omnibus collections over the coming weeks, and they are seemingly at a discounted price while on pre-order. He also mentions that, just so everyone's aware, this did not finish its run. It was stopped after the drawing of the 3. So and some elements of book 3 are in that section, but ultimately it did not go all the way through the series like people had hoped. But still, there's a lot of good stuff there. So let's see. Also, the article mentions, and I went and checked, and as of the time of this recording, if you do not currently have the collection of the novels in the full box set collection, those are still on sale on Amazon right now. They are currently $65 for the entire Dark Tower
It's a
series.
hell of a deal for all 8 of them.
Yeah.
All 8 of them.
Yeah, so let me go see what it, I got it on sale as well back in 21, and it was on sale for $80 at the time, and that was a good deal. So it is $20 cheaper if you are one that has not bought that beautiful collection of the Dark Tower series. This is probably a good time to buy that. The article does mention, I already mentioned that it did not get completed, but the first one, Dark Tower Beginnings, which is 800 pages, covers Roland's early life and is on pre-order for $90, the full price being $100, releases October 10th. And then a few weeks later, the second one, The Dark Tower of the Gunslinger, hits October 24th, and that one rings in at 736 pages, which adapts the first book and some of the short stories. This is also priced at $90, $100 retail. Then November 1st, the third and final omnibus, The Dark Tower of the Drawing of 3, releases with its 464 pages, covering the events of the second book and some aspects of the third book. The price of that one, for some reason, is not the same. It is $93. So it's
Just a little bit more.
a couple dollars more, with the $100 full price. So again, this is from Gallery 13, who we covered last year. Purchased the publishing rights. This is awesome because these have been out of print for a while. And yeah, hardcover omnibus collections are wonderful things to have.
It's the reason why I haven't gotten into comics more. Being a huge Batman fan and everything like that, is I don't like individual comics. I don't know why, but it's just like it's unnatural to me being a novel reader that I am, to have just like a comic read the comic, go to the next one, and everything like that. So I like the omnibuses and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's your fault. The reason that I'm that way is because the first 3 Batman comics I got were from you for Christmas.
Yeah.
And they were all omnibuses. So
Yeah.
it's just like...
Yeah, they're definitely, unless you're into comic collecting, they're a great way to go. Zach in the chat says he has all the individual comics and says, but not all the variants, because that's the other thing with the standalone stuff, is often there will be various covers.
Yeah.
You know what I wish somebody would get? Because there's one I still kick myself for not buying, was the The Stand comic omnibus at one point. It came in like a little thing that looked like a medical pack with like the Red Cross and stuff. I was at a comic book shop one time and I turned it down, and since then it's gone out of print, and it is worth considerably more than I would have been able to purchase it at the time. So, I hope that at some point someone can get the publishing rights to that and get that one re-released.
So Tad can fix his mistake.
Yes, indeed. I mean, who doesn't want to see Bobby Terry eaten alive on the comic pages?
I mean, I don't like seeing people get eaten alive. Usually.
Why not?
I mean, I like zombie movies, I guess. So I guess I kind of do.
See, exactly.
I just don't want Randall Flagg to be happy, so that's the reason why.
Oh, all right. So this next one is the Stephen King interview that I alluded to earlier. I will say up front, though, King does delve into some realms we generally wouldn't talk about because it goes along with Holly. We generally try to avoid anything political, but King does say some stuff here. But I feel like it's Stephen King. I'm going to cover it.
It's his opinion. He's entitled to it. That his opinions do not reflect the opinions of Dark Tower Palaver.
Yeah, and we try to keep everything pretty middle of the road on everything, because whatever everyone believes.
This isn't a politics.
No,
podcast.
no. When it comes to the podcasting, I'm kind of the Michael Jordan belief, right? Both sides buy shoes.
Yeah.
So, but Stephen King may not fall into that same realm. So I wanted to give that preface before we jump into the next one, because even the headline here, it says Stephen King knows anti-vaxxers are going to hate his latest book, and he says, knock yourselves out. So this is from Brent. I just realized that I usually make my text a lot bigger. I was like, God, am I going blind? No, it's because I haven't upped the size on my text here. So this is by Brenna Ehrlich from Rolling Stones on September 5th, 2023. So again, I do want to point out there is a minor spoiler for Holly in this. This came out the day of the book being published, though, so I don't think this is like earth-shattering anything. So, but if you don't want to know anything about Holly, maybe skip ahead a bit until we are through this article.
Or if you're watching live, just mute us until you see the slide change.
Yeah, indeed. So this, let's see. Brenna starts out, says this is largely, this is my recap. This is a largely Q&A type interview, but there is a portion at the top that it starts into it, and she leads the article by getting this quote from King, where he says, "I think a lot of people are not going to like it." He says, "I think that a lot of people, particularly people on the other side of the COVID issue and the Trump issue, are going to give this 1-star reviews on Amazon. But all I can say to those people is knock yourselves out," which he was correct, because that has indeed happened.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, the reviews on Amazon are quite I don't know what you call it, split, because the people review bombing.
It's the polar opposites: people who actually read the book and people who read about the book.
Yeah, exactly. People that yeah, indeed.
Which happens, unfortunately, with movies and anything published or put out.
And you can always tell, because like statistically, you kind of have like a bell curve with ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And unless something is just absolutely an incredible product, you might see like the 5-star reviews way high, but you'll see a lot of 5, 4, 3, whatever. But when you see like one that's just so exponentially longer, and it's usually the 1-star reviews, and it's just so far
when it's like this, the 5s are up there and the 1s are up there. There is no middle in between. Really,
it's like, hey,
okay,
something's going on here.
Yeah.
And let's see. Then it goes on to the Q&A section. So she asks, when did you decide to get? Or actually, one thing I wanted to point out too, if anyone thought going into this book that COVID would be treated any way other than it was from fucking Holly Gibney, you have no fucking clue about this character.
Yeah,
she is always, since day one, been a germaphobe, been
careful person.
Very.
Has to make sure the oven's off 3 times before she can leave kind of person.
Because that's the thing I thought about as I was reading it. As I was like, okay, yeah, I get, because there's some times where I'm like, oh yeah, that people won't like this, but I'm like, at the same time though, they completely misunderstand the character if they think that she is going to be anything other than exactly what she was in that book, because it's Holly, for God's sake. I mean, she was like a scared little bird before old Bill Hodges brought her out of her shell and got her whatever. But even still, her innate character traits are definitely totally fits. I never once felt that King was like making her, like spending her out of character for some like social reason or whatever, or political reason. It's like, no, this is Holly.
This is how the character was before COVID existed.
She's always been like, kind of that's what I love about her too, is she's so like neurotic and like just those are the things I love about her. You know what I also came to realize while reading Holly before we could dive further into the interview? You know what I think why I love her so much? You know who she reminds me of?
Who?
Chloe from 24.
See, I've only watched one season of 24.
Oh,
and
really?
I don't remember much of it.
So she's like the person in the chair for him.
Oh, the Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. So she's that character, and she is very Holly-like. I mean, if she predates Holly, but it's like, she's like what you'd probably say she's on the spectrum. Most likely nowadays. You wouldn't have said that back when it was there. We didn't know that as heavily as we do now. And then she's just very socially inept. She doesn't know how to talk to people, but she's very, very capable at her job. And I always loved Chloe. She's one of my favorite characters on the 24 show back in the day, which I got into pretty heavily. And Holly always reminded me of her quite a bit. So I will say that dawned on me while reading Holly, where it finally clicked, where like, wait, this is why I've always loved her so much. She reminds me of Chloe. I don't know why that those wires had never crossed in my head. But Brenna asks, when did you decide to give Holly her own book? And then King says, well, I guess I just sort of liked Holly a lot. You get to know the characters, and some you don't want to go on with. But some of them I really want to see what she's up to. I like her so much because she's a weird combination of insecurity and OCD and detective abilities. And I'd say that too, not only just the OCD and like the potentially on the spectrum, but the insecurity. That's the other thing that is very Chloe-like. So it's just, those are the things that really define Holly, and I love it. So, and he says, do you see, or she asks, do you see yourself in her at all? He says, yes, I do. And this is actually kind of an interesting thing I've never heard before. He says, I have a lot of OCD tics, straightening pictures in strange hotel rooms, which, as Dark Tower fans, we all know that line from The Gunslinger. And in the new Holly book, that was also mentioned. That sort of thing, he says. I feel like I can't really go to bed unless I brush my teeth half a dozen times or something. That's half a dozen times. That's a lot.
Sounds like someone we've read about a few times in a few different books.
Yeah. And he says, and so, I recognize her a lot. And I've certainly seen a lot of people who are in her situation who have been treated badly through high school and some of the early work experiences, and yet they blossom. I like Holly because she's a late bloomer. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say that King is probably empathizes with those people. Let's think of Carrie, for instance.
Yeah.
That was not treated very well. And
it always seems like a domineering female character as well over them.
The mom.
Carrie's, well, it's not always a mother.
It usually is.
It usually is. But Carrie's mother, Holly's mom, is the same way.
Yeah, it's usually a mom. But yeah, you're right. It can be somebody else, but it's usually a mom.
Well, I mean, like Mrs. Carmody. That's not a mom, but she's the domineering female kind of character with that religious fanaticism that King has several times throughout his books. So and then she goes on and says, I like that as well, that she has this life that her mother wanted for her, and then she completely broke out. And then King says, right, yes, she was supposed to stand her mother's thumb, and of course mother plays a big part in this book because Holly is never really free of her mother. I don't think any of us really are. Yeah.
And I know that about you as well. I mean, you're aversion to awkward things.
God. Secondhand embarrassment because of my mom
is totally birthed from your mom.
Legit because of my mom. And she's a great person. She's a wonderful woman. She's very kind. She's very but clueless. She has no social awareness for saying embarrassing things that she doesn't understand is embarrassing. And so it's
I've watched movies with you where you like cover your face. And stuff.
He sends me those reels on Instagram that are embarrassing, and I will cover my face drop my phone onto the desk and cover my face while watching them. And he gets enjoyment out of this sick fuck.
Oh, Scott's Tots. That's why.
No.
That's why it's
No.
such a magical thing there. Or the dinner party.
No.
Okay, and then she goes on and asks, I heard that the idea for this book came from a vision you had of Holly attending her mother's funeral on Zoom. Yeah, exactly, King says. Sometimes you'll get a picture and say to yourself, I want to write this scene, but I don't really have anything to go with it. It's just kind of by itself. And for me, it was always two-part process. I get a scene and I really want to write it, and I think about it, and I know what the words would be for that one particular scene, but there's nothing to connect to it. So I had this image of Holly at the Zoom funeral turning off her camera so that she could just put her head down and cry. Which that's interesting. I mean, I know, for me at least, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know not everyone finds the same interest in that stuff, but I'm always interested in like those small seeds that plant to these stories, and it's just crazy because after reading the book, I don't think I would have picked that one as the seed for this whole thing, right?
Yeah,
because
no.
like the stand he talks about in the intro to the stand, it's like when the nerve gas here in Utah in the 70s, when the nerve gas leaked and killed all those sheep. But you know, it's
Children of the Corn was just driving through Nebraska one time, right?
maybe The
Was it-
Shining, as he was there at
He was at the
Stanley.
At the Stanley. I wanted to say the Overlook, but yeah.
Yes.
The Stanley, which I will never stay at. We've discussed this.
Oh, you'll be there though.
I will be there. I will record an episode there. I am not fucking staying there. You are fucking nuts if you think that's going to happen.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with checking out but never leaving, sir.
You have fun.
It's like the song says.
You have fun. You do that.
Oh, I should get them to put up some kind of picture of like the 1929 4th of July party, but it has me in the center of it.
Oh, God. No. You honestly think I'm going to come looking for your ass? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. If you're not outside my hotel picking me up at the appropriate time, I'm catching a cab to the airport and I'm flying home. And nice knowing you, Tad. We had a good run on the podcast, guys. Let's shut it down. Everything's over. Tad's gone. What? Go look for him? No. That's a no for me.
Oh, you know you'd do it, sir.
No.
You know, that actually does remind me as well. We are going to be seeing the Dark Tower Palaver birthday in between now and the next episode. So
What is it, like October 3rd, right?
October 3rd, yes. What is that? 8 years?
From starting the podcast? Yeah.
That's wild. That is wild.
2015.
Yeah, 2015. So I just remembered that because, when you said, good run on the podcast. It
Yeah,
just
we had a good run.
Sparked my memory there. I know you'd come save me, sir.
No, I would not. Nope. If I got a call from you that's like, Peter, there's something in my bathtub. Help me. And then it cut off, I'd be like, all right, let's go catch an Uber to the airport and get the hell out of this state and never come back.
The question is, are you not coming to help me because of A, your fear of the hotel, or B, your fear of me inside the hotel?
Yes. Yes. If Jack Torrance turned evil over a span of months, I would imagine you with an axe or a rook mallet could happen in a span of hours. So, podcast out. That's it.
I should get a rook mallet
No.
for a trip. That'd be fun.
No.
It'd be fun to have in the background while we're recording.
What next? Are you going to say we should put a hedge animal in the room too?
I heard they're growing a hedge maze. I don't know where it's at, and it's attempt to grow it, but they were because they said they got so tired of people constantly asking for a hedge maze.
Yeah.
They finally decided just to fucking build one.
Oh, really?
So I just don't know. Like that obviously takes a good while to get up a good hedge maze. So, all right. So then moving on, she says, I heard the second piece of the inspiration for this book came from a news story you read about the elderly couple, an elderly couple honor killing a family member. Holly seems to usually deal with the supernatural creatures like the shape-shifting outsider in the book by that name, but the couple in this book seems far more terrifying. And King says Holly takes a little bit, or talks a little bit about that at the end, and says something like, when you deal with people like the outsider, it's almost comforting in a way because you can say if there's an outside force for evil, then there must be an outside force for good. And I would say that is a poor guess by Holly. In the Stephen King universe, that is not the case. There are a number of evil entities that don't necessarily have a balancing force in Stephen King's universe.
Not that you're aware of. So, I mean, we have the turtle.
You know, that's true, but go through. I don't know. There's a number of things where it's like King is not always concerned with the balance of light and dark.
Well, you're saying that there's not a deity or a higher being helping out the characters. What if the characters are the good side, the good of the scale?
Yeah.
You got what's his name, Arnie and Christine on one side and Christine on the other. That's the
Dennis, probably.
Dennis. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, Arnie is.
Arnie's the one that's obsessed with Christine. Sorry, Dennis is the balance.
Didn't know you were called Dennis.
I didn't know you were called Dennis.
Then he says, he goes on and says, where in the real world, when you deal with people like the Harrises, they seem outrageous until you put them in the perspective of people like Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, who did unspeakable things to his victims, just unspeakable. There are police who were involved with those crimes who simply won't talk about what they saw at some of those crime scenes. Mm-hmm. So that's that's the inside evil, the prosaic side of it. And then he finishes off and says, Rader was a very prosaic man in a lot of ways, and the Harrises are prosaic people. They're academic. I'm sure that you've been to colleges and you've have known professors who climb up on their hobby horse and just sort of babble on about things. And Rodney Harris is that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting take. I just in the light of especially all that we've discovered with Jake Chambers, for instance, I'm just like, King is a monster, so he doesn't always balance that out, necessarily. So then the next question, she says, there have been a lot of cannibals popping up in pop culture recently. What do you think that it is about them that is so disquieting to us? He says, I think it's one of the final taboos. One of the interesting things about all those creatures that have been spawned by George Romero, the zombies, the flesh-eating zombies, we say to ourselves, oh my God, that's the worst thing I could possibly think of. And then he says, Rodney is in a class by himself, Rodney and Emily both, but Emily, of course, is crazier of the two and is less interested in the sanctity of livers and brains and more into things that more into getting even with people she doesn't like.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's it's true. What would you say? What is more evil, in your mind, the supernatural or just the mundane, like these two or Mrs. Carmody?
This is so much worse than like The Outsider.
Yeah, or like
it's outside of it's an outsider. It's not human. We can expect things like that to act that way, but when a human acts that way, God, ew.
Like Mrs. Carmody, right? It's almost worse than the mist itself.
I'm gonna keep it like real world. Like Bundy is scared the hell out of America because he looked like the guy next door.
Yeah,
he was a good looking guy. He wasn't some ugly, hillbilly digging up graves or something like that. He was a good looking guy. There were women who were like, God, he's cute. What's that? He's wanted for murder? Oh shit, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
that is way scarier to me because I live in that world. It's also scary to think about things like The Outsider existing. Vampires, werewolves, all those kinds of things.
Especially werewolves.
Anything beastie, and everything like that.
St. Bernards.
No. Not beastie. They're cute and cuddly.
I did see an article while doing the prep. I didn't get it because it wasn't that interesting, but it was talking about one of the big issues they had on making Cujo was they couldn't get the 3 or 4 dogs they were using to stop wagging their tails.
Yeah, because they're too happy. Because they're nice, happy dogs.
No, because they're so happy with the
oh, stop
horrible things they're doing.
They're not doing anything horrible. But no, yeah. So for me, I think the real world, which is why I don't know if we want to talk about Holly.
No, we won't go too heavy.
Yeah, which is why.
I'm just saying.
Let me just put it this way.
In general, even in the Stephen King realm, you look at there are all these supernatural horrors, but then there's also there's the. I just blanked on his name. The guy from the Dead Zone. The whole.
Oh, the politician.
Yeah, you got him. You've got Big Jim from Under the Dome. You've got Mrs. Carmody. You got all these like human things, and it's like if you were to balance the scales, like
Jack Torrance. When he's psychotic, when he's taken by the hotel before he realizes what he's doing.
That's the hotel, though, right?
But it is going through. No, well, because what I was going to say
he breaks out of it, and for that moment to allow Danny to escape. So,
but what I was going to say next is what about the town of Derry being influenced by Pennywise? The stuff with Bev's dad and Henry is almost more scary than Pennywise. And that's why I've been trying to convince my wife to read or watch it, is because most of this stuff that's scary doesn't involve a clown.
Yeah.
Like, it's got this notion that...
Especially in the book. I think
Oh,
the
no,
movie,
yeah, the
I think
book.
the movie's a harder sell a little bit because ultimately both filmmakers that have taken on it have leaned into the clown
wants
heavier.
to use the clown, yeah.
So, but in the book, yeah,
The book,
he's not
a clown very often.
Not a clown that often.
Not hardly at all. And so that's where, like, but the stuff with, like, Bev's dad and then Henry Bowers and everything, that's terrifying. You know? Someone could just have a grudge against you and you don't know it.
Yeah.
You know? Or you do know it, but you don't realize how bad it is. I mean, I've watched some of those documentaries. That happens. Is that people have that big of a grudge and then that's how your car blows up. Or you end up stabbed 17 times in the middle of the night. Or a boy walks through the house and murders his entire family with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Amityville Horror. You know?
Yeah.
That stuff gets to me, man. And which is why I'm fascinated with it. Which is why I watch all that shit. But the supernatural stuff, yeah, that's scary. But I know it's not real. I know it's not real.
Not real yet.
Yeah.
And then she goes on and says, I was struck by how much COVID plays a role in the book in 2023. Why did you find it important to make this such a central point? And King says, well, I wanted to write the book set in the time that I was actually writing the book, which is around 2020 or 2021. And I thought to myself, nobody would believe this if they hadn't been through it. Nobody will actually understand the paranoia and the fear of COVID. Yeah. People will see archival footage when we're old and gray. And then he stops and says, well, I'm old and gray now. But when you're old and gray, people will see footage of bodies being put in refrigerator trucks outside of hospitals and say, that didn't really happen, right? Could that have really happened? And he says, and of course it did. So in that sense, Holly is a time capsule of a particular time when I was writing the book. So
that's great. And that's one thing that we literally, it was so funny how this happened, guys. Literally the week before Holly came out, Tad and I were talking at work, and no joke, we were having a discussion about how COVID can't be a plot point for Tad.
True.
And he doesn't want it to be like the major, this man and this woman got locked together because they're quarantined and they fell in love. That's the plot of a movie. No, not for Tad.
No.
So it was just funny. We were talking about that, but as a normal part of the environment, hey, this is just set in 2020. This is a story that's set in 2020. They have to deal with COVID, but that's not the plot. That's not the major. What did you call it? The major like environmental factor or something like that.
Yeah, it's not the main like central thing of the whole. If you're watching Ethan Hunt walk through a town and people are wearing masks, I don't give a fuck.
No.
But like if it's like you said, like there was like talks of a romantic comedy where right before the lockdown happens, this guy and girl are on having a one night stand and they end up getting locked up together in the lockdown, or not locked up but locked in,
like the 14-day quarantine, and it's the love story over that 14 days.
Like fuck that, dude.
It's no
fuck that.
We don't want to relive that.
Yeah,
but having a story have COVID ties and stuff like that, fine.
Yeah,
that's one thing. So
Cody, sorry, I didn't get a notification out to social media, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. Apparently, somehow YouTube tried to set the original time for this show at 3 p.m. our time, which is 30 minutes from now. So I ended up having to kill that show, create a new one because YouTube doesn't let you just edit anything. So there's probably a number of things that fucked up notifications.
Stupid North Central Positronics.
And me for forgetting the actual social media side too. That's part of it.
Hashtag that is terrible.
Oh man.
But no, so it's just interesting that Holly uses COVID, but he uses it like a normal thing.
Yeah.
It's a story that takes place during COVID. It's not a story driven by COVID.
Yeah. And I think it does inform the plot a little bit too. Yeah. Like there's some elements of the story that almost depend on it, and I'm okay with that. Like that's totally fine.
Well, like he talks about the whole scene that he wanted to write, the Zoom funeral.
Yeah.
We all use Zoom during 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, majority of us. I shouldn't say all.
I'll say, I still have never used Zoom.
You still never use Zoom.
Which is weird. I mean...
No, we did use Zoom. We used it for our fantasy football draft that year.
Not me. You managed it. So.
Oh, that's right. We did. Yeah, that's right.
So no, I've never once used Zoom. It's I know it's so ubiquitous at this point, but I have never because work wise, our work always uses Google everything.
Yeah,
so it's like I've done Google Meets up the wazoo, but I've never used Zoom. I've never downloaded Zoom. It's just a strange thing. It almost feels like a weird thing to be.
It's like a badge of honor. Like I've never used Zoom.
It's like in 2023, and somehow I've never used Zoom.
If you ever play that game, Never Have I Ever. There's your first one.
Yeah, no shit. All right, so next up, she says, I don't feel like I've read a lot of books that were written during COVID that include it as more than a side note. And he said, yeah, I think that's true. And Stephen King says, yeah, I think that's true. And it's tough to do because the whole thing about masks is, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a time in the 90s when cell phones came out and everyone was like, well, that's going to put an end to a lot of tropes in suspense fiction because now you can quickly pick up the phone from your back pocket and call people, which I will say that has ruined a lot for horror movies. There's a lot of shit when you look at the classic horror things. There's a lot of things that cell phones completely eliminate.
How much different would it be?
Blair Witch Project.
How much would it? Well, if you have cell signal,
Yeah.
that's if you have cell signal.
which-
that one. But Halloween, Lori
Yeah.
can't get a hold of her friends. She just pulls up her phone. She walks in, sees a dead body, pulls out her phone, and calls 911.
Yeah, there's.
She
yeah.
doesn't have to run back to the house and
send the
lock the
kids
door.
out to everyone screaming out the street.
No, she
Yeah,
doesn't
none
have to
of
do that. No, she just pulls up. Well, not even then. She doesn't even have to go back to that house.
Yeah.
She could pull it out right there and call 911. Oh my God, there's a dead body here.
Yeah.
And then help's on the way.
Yeah.
So as she's running across the street to the house, the cops show up and blast Michael.
Or Andy taking a selfie with Chucky coming at him with a knife behind him.
Oh, what the? Grab the puppet and throw it out the window.
Oh, man. Then King goes on and says, and when you talk about COVID, you're talking about people masking their expressions, and it presents its own number of different problems. And there's always the question of, are you going to tap elbows? Or are you going to shake hands? So it presents problems. Let's put it that way. And I try to do it in such a way that it would not become boring. That's something that critics and readers are going to have to discover for themselves, and they'll have their own opinions on it. And then he goes, or the next question, she says, I know there's a lot of people out there on X or whatever you want to call it that are convinced that COVID is over and it's not going to concern anyone, and it's not ongoing concern anymore. What do you think of that idea? And he says, well, Holly's mother is a COVID denier and she died in the hospital of COVID. And to the very end, she's saying, I've got the flu. The flu is what I have. And I think that it goes back to this is not a new thing. There have been people for years who have been vaccination deniers who say that if you get vaccinated for certain kinds of things, you're going to cause birth defects in your children, this and that. Or if you're vaccinate your children, they could have strokes. And then the same thing could be said about the COVID vaccinations. There's a constant story that thousands of people are dying of heart disease because of the vaccination, and that's not true, but it gains a lot of credence, so there is a lot of that, and I try to put that in the book. There is a character in the book who just says, I don't believe in this bullshit, it's all crap, and that's the life we live in, and I always try to reflect the times in which I am writing. Mm-hmm. So... and then she goes on and says, Jerome and Barbara Robinson, Holly's co-workers at Finders Keepers, and his... or Holly's co-worker at Finders Keepers and his sister, because she doesn't work there, play a big role in the book. Do you foresee them getting their own books? He says, Jerome is very important in what I'm writing now.
Oh.
That's
Oh, hello there.
that's a fun little thing. He says, I'm writing another book, and Jerome is involved with that one particularly because in a lot of the early books, Jerome's job with Finders Keepers agency has to do with finding lost dogs or kidnapped dogs. So I have a chance to do something in this book with that, and I'm really delighted to see him involved in the book. He's a cool character.
Yeah.
So is
we
there
got a missing dog?
missing animal in the next book, maybe?
Cujo's offspring. Looking for a baby St. Bernard.
Or a
puppy?
little dachshund raccoon that swears at people.
Oi. Fuck you. Fuck you.
That's interesting though. That's kind of some news breaking there.
Yeah.
We got Jerome showing up in a future book.
Hopefully it includes Holly too.
I mean, that's certainly a question for sure.
Can you imagine if Jerome shows up in a book and Holly doesn't?
He already confirmed that he's writing another book involving Holly. We covered that last episode. Last time we were not doing a book club, we covered there was that one interview he did, or it was a podcast, and there's like 3 different things that because he talked about potentially Talisman 3, another Holly book, and then one other book. It was nuts. A lot of stuff in one interview. So Jerome, I don't know if he fits into one of those. Perhaps. I mean, if it's a Holly one, I would assume he
that's
fits
where he
into
fits.
it.
Yeah,
but then he goes on, or then she goes on and questions, and she says, he really is. I love your love of dogs that carries through your work. How is your dog doing? He says, Molly's great. She had a tumor removed from her neck this year. She's getting on in years a little bit, but she's still cool. And I think that with dogs in particular, they're so much part of our lives, and yet they age so much faster that we do, so much faster than we do, that there's kind of a cycle where we're able to see the dogs and then we don't see, or that we're able to see with dogs that we don't see with our friends, our human friends, I should say. And then she asks, I love that in your book Fairy Tale about a young man finds a portal to another world. The dog gets to be young again when she takes a ride on a magical sundial. And then he says, the question that I got a lot of times when people would see the cover of Fairy Tale and they'd read a little bit about it, people would ask me, I don't want to read this book if the dog dies. Does the dog die? And he says, and my response is always the same. You have to read the book to find out.
Oh,
I had the same thought going in. I'm like, okay, we got a German Shepherd on the cover here. I'm like, is this dog going to die? You fucking bastard. Because let's be honest, King has done that a number of times now. Killed like some beloved creature, you know.
boy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Cujo. No, he's a beast, of course.
No,
A
I
monster.
like Saint Bernards. So yeah, I was sad
Not
when he
evil,
died.
vicious Saint Bernards that attack Tads. And then she says, you must get a lot of that after Pet Sematary. The cat didn't get to have quite the same fate. And he says, well, the cat came back. It just wasn't a very nice cat anymore.
Is any cat nice?
No, but I think there's a malice that comes along with church there.
Yeah.
And then she says, sadly, I think we have loved, or she says, sadly, I think we would have loved the cat regardless. Anyway, back to Holly. Barbara's also getting to explore her talent with poetry quite a bit. I know you've written quite a few over the years. Would you ever delve deeper into that? He says, well, it's like songwriting in a way. I love music, but I can't write a song to save my life. And I love poetry. I love to read it, and I can't really write very good poetry. There's a little short poem in Holly that I think that I did, or that I like, that I did write, and that has to do with grass, but I would never try to write a book that's centered around having to write a lot of poems. I just can't do it. So,
Not the poet.
yeah, no, and that makes sense. I think it's a completely different thing. Then she says, so you mentioned music. I know you're a big fan of writing and listening to music. What are you listening to while you're writing these days? Says, I don't listen to it as much as when I write. I think it's because I've slowed down a little bit. Or the thought process isn't as limber as it was when I was, say, 30 or 35, that sort of thing. But I do still listen to it when I polish and then I rewrite. And I listen to a lot of loud rock and roll.
Yeah.
He says, lately I've been sort of stuck on Foghat and Bob Seger, people like that. And then this is where King starts to lose me a little bit. He says, but I've also been listening to a fair amount of country music.
All right.
Not that I hate country, but I just can't get into it. And I also can't picture King listening to country, to be honest. That's just
No?
because he's always been so heavy into like rock and roll and
Yeah.
stuff that it just,
The Ramones, Sex Pistols are always the ones that are mentioned in his books.
yeah, country is just never one I've thought of. But he goes on and says, so a lot of Travis Tritt and Alan Jackson, people like that. And he says, have you heard the song by the guy, It's North of Richmond or something? And then she says, yes, Oliver Anthony and the Rich Man, North of Richmond. What are your thoughts on that? He says, I don't know. I haven't heard the song yet, but I've seen pictures of him. He's got a beard and a cool guitar. So, of course, King, that's an amateur musician, notices the guitar as well. And then this is the part that has gone slightly viral. It says it's part of the culture war between the right and the left right now, which is interesting. But I have to ask, I hear you're a huge fan of Mambo No. 5 by Lou Bega. And he says, oh yeah, big time. My wife threatened to divorce me. I played that a lot.
Oh, jeez.
I had the dance mix. I love those extended play things, and I love both sides of it. And one of them was just total instrumental. And I played that thing until my wife just said, one more time and I'm going to fucking leave you.
Damn.
Some people misread that as like legit and not, she was joking and
Oh, really?
whatever. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to state that, she was joking. Kind of one of those things. But yeah, that went absolutely fucking viral.
Cody put in the chat, oh man, there is a Steve with Molly Funko Pop.
Interesting.
It looks like it's the one you own, but just comes with the little puppy.
What the hell does a Funko dog look like?
Like that.
Huh?
Like that.
It's just, Funko Pops aren't even really like, they're only remotely
Good
human
Lord,
looting.
that's $99?
Funkos are overpriced. So then she says, what were you writing at the time? And he says, I think it was probably 11/22/63. But when I write, there are things that I can listen to a lot, and a lot of it is techno stuff or disco stuff. But techno in particular, there's a group called LCD Sound System. I love that. Fatboy Slim is somebody else. I can just listen to that stuff, If you try to write and listen to like Leonard Cohen, how the fuck would you do that? Because you'd have to listen to the words and you'd have to listen to what he's saying. But some of the techno stuff, or Casey and the Sunshine Band, Gloria Gaynor, that's all good stuff. Again, King and techno, never considered that either.
No.
So
King at a rave with like glow sticks and shit.
oh, I love the spirit of it. And then she says, so what have you been reading lately? Says, I finished Beloved for the first time by Toni Morrison. I got to the point where I said, you're 75 years old. You better hurry up and get behind that because I've always meant to read it. And it's interesting. It's a good book. And I'm reading Robert Goddard, who's an English mystery writer. And I like his stuff too. Very different stuff, but it's all good. I read Colleen Hoover book recently. It Ends With Us. And she says, what drew you to Colleen Hoover? And he says, I wanted to see what she was about because she's so damn popular. So I read the book and I thought to myself, oh yeah, I get it. I get why she's so popular. She tells a good story.
All right.
And then
Carleen Hoover.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then closing off here, she says, I read your essay about AI in the Atlantic, which is interesting because it's so different from a lot of other people's view on AI. I'm curious how you see integrating itself into literature. And he says, because he is not as anti as some other people have been.
Well, of course not. North Central Positronics got to him.
And he says, well, let me just say I get the worries about AI as it applies to screenwriting or writers who are involved with writing for TV, because there's this fear, and I think it's an unstated fear that AI has sort of been writing sitcoms all along, and because some of the and some drama series, because they're all so formulaic. That's pretty by the numbers. But as far as AI goes, and books written by AI, scripts written by AI, what can you do about it? You may as well be King Kontu trying to turn back the tide because it is going to happen. Which that's a interesting take.
That's a bleak outlook.
Yeah, and bleak that you can't fight it. He says, but I find it very difficult to believe that AI, until it achieves real sentience, which is a ways away yet. Well, let's hope so. Can write anything. He says, I've read poems by AI where they were in the style of, say, William Blake, and they have the God stuff and the Lamb stuff and all this, but it just ain't the same. It ain't even close. It's like the difference between Budweiser and some generic beer. Both of them get you a little tingly, but it ain't the same.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the interview with King there. But yeah, it's an interesting interview. A couple little news nuggets there,
yeah.
And Mambo number 5, divorce. All right, so jumping on over now to the next news thing. Cody's talking about the Funkos as well.
Yeah.
Going for like $50 to $100. Must be a limited run. Yeah, I feel like aren't they all though? Isn't that the whole premise behind Funko Pops? Because originally when they first came out, they were pretty cheap, but nowadays I feel like every one of them you find are expensive, and it's just like, oh, because it's limited, or oh, because it has a different coat of paint on it, so it's I don't know, or glow in the dark. We covered the glow in the dark Carrie one, a few episodes back. So next up, Pet Sematary, the new Pet Sematary movie, Bloodlines. The trailer is dropped. It is coming to Paramount Plus. A horror prequel reveals Sometimes Dead is Better, is the name of the headline here. It's by Greg Evans from Deadline on September 12th, 2023. I will throw a link to the trailer in the show notes if you want to go watch that. It looks fun. They do indeed drop the line, Sometimes Dead is Better. I also didn't know David Duchovny's in it.
Oh, is he really?
Mulder is in it. I think he may be Judd's dad.
Okay.
But then it says prequel movie I synopsize because the prequel movie is going to hit Paramount Plus in the U.S., Canada, Latin America, Brazil on October 6th. So it is coming real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the main thing I took away from it. The synopsis says in 1969, young Judd Crandall has dreams of leaving his hometown of Ludlow, Maine, behind, but soon discovers a sinister secret buried within and is forced to confront the dark family history that will forever keep him connected to Ludlow. Banding together, Judd and his childhood friend must fight an ancient evil that has gripped Ludlow since its founding, and once unearthed, it has the power to destroy everything in its path.
Jeez.
That's fun. I hope we see the bull. That's what I'm really hoping for. That's the one I'm really hoping for. I didn't see a hint of it in the trailer, but I'm hoping for that.
I haven't watched the trailer. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, I should have sent it to you. But, trailer's out now. It's coming out here in, about a week? Or no, 2 weeks, because it said October 6th. That's
October 6th is the day before we record down in Vegas.
Yes, indeed. So keep your eyes out to Paramount Plus for Pet Sematary Bloodlines. We'll see what if it's good or not.
There we go.
So next up, we have an upcoming Stephen King movie has hit a roadblock, and I'm not sure it'll ever going to move forward. This is by Eric Eisenberg from Cinema Blend on August 3rd, 2023. And as you can see from the picture, you probably know what we're talking about.
Yep.
But Eric outlines how, despite King's popularity, not all adaptations end up making it across the finish line. He then says how the last few years, The Long Walk has been one that has been in one stage of development, over the last few years, The Long Walk, which has been one that has been in one stage of development or another for the last 3 decades, seems to actually be making some real progress with the director Andre Overdahl. While doing press for his latest film, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, Overdahl provided a sad update for fans of The Long Walk. He says, I love that book. I love the project, but I'm not part of it anymore, which is I'm very sad about. But I think in a way I was lucky to get on The Last Voyage of the Demeter basically instead. And then Eric gives a recap of the story of The Long Walk and laments that it is probably not going to come anytime soon, if ever. Because, this has been in development for like 30-something years. Yeah. In the same way, like The Towel has technically been, whatever, but no real anything's happened. But the last couple of years, I think it was like 2019, I think we may have covered on the show, where Andre Overdahl came aboard, and that was the first time it felt like, oh my God, something might actually be happening with this. With him gone now, I don't know.
Seems like it's dead on the road.
Yeah, pretty much. That is a sad update for that. Next up, we have John Carpenter talking here. He comments on the upcoming Stephen King remake of his 1980s classic Christine. This is by Hannah Guerin from Screen Rant on September 15th, 2023. So first of all, John is not too kind to his original film. When asked about the 40th anniversary celebration of Christine, which we've covered, it's coming back to theaters for a day or two. Mm-hmm. So 40-year anniversary celebration of Christine, and John's response to it says, I know there's some rumblings about having an anniversary. My question is why? So
what?
He's basically just saying, why are we celebrating the anniversary of this movie?
He doesn't like it?
Doesn't sound like it. And then he goes on and says, I needed a job, frankly. The Thing was my first studio movie. I was just diving in the pool here, and all of a sudden, wham, and getting fired off of a movie is not the most pleasant thing. That, of course, he's talking about getting fired from Firestarter because of the commercial and critical bombing of The Thing, which is insane to think about. Now it's seen as one of the most beloved horror movies of all time. But not only did it fail box office, that could be excused. It happens a lot. But the critics all shit on that movie. I don't get that. I don't get that. But yeah, so that's what he's talking about there. Again, one of those what could have been with Mr. Carpenter doing Firestarter.
Man.
He then
would have never got that karate chop.
Oh man. Do you think Drew Barrymore would have been involved with John Carpenter? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, what would have happened there?
I don't know. That could be a whole different element of history there. A whole door of 11/22/63. He then talked about Brian Fuller, who was looking to readapt the book. Of course, Brian Fuller, most famous for the Hannibal show. And then John, I almost said Frank Darabont's on the brain now. John Carpenter said, "Oh boy, well, good luck to him. It'll probably be better. It'll probably be a better film, basically."
Wow.
So. And then Keith Gordon, who played Arnie in the original film, expands on the thought and says, quote, I think he's really talented and a good person to do it. I mean, I don't give negative feelings about people remaking something, especially 40 years later. Christine could be told in different ways and not be an insult to the original. There's a very short list of untouchable classics that should never be remade. Films where their groundbreakingness or idiosyncrasies are what made them special. He says, I wouldn't want to see anybody remake Citizen Kane, 2001, or Raging Bull, for instance. So, yeah, sounds like everyone's hyped about Brian Fuller. And apparently John does not like his version of Christine much and thought of it as nothing more than a job.
I gotta make money, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if a job turns out a movie that's that great, then...
I loved his Christine.
It's not a bad movie. I just think that, I don't know, maybe he's even just being humble or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how he speaks about his other movies. I don't know.
I've never heard him talk about any of his movies. I've heard him talk about how he doesn't want to make movies and he wants to play video games. But.
Yeah. I've heard him shit on like Halloween sequels, but I've never heard him really talk much about his own movies. So I don't know if it's a his like type that he's whatever. Maybe he just genuinely doesn't really care for the movie. I don't know,
Yeah.
which is wild because it's such a classic.
40, Spencer.
40-year anniversary of it, of course. But yeah, Brian Fuller. Can't wait to see what
It'll be interesting.
he's got for us there. Yeah, Hyle Spencer. And then so next up we've got Tom Hiddleston's Life of Chuck, scheduled to start filming in Alabama in October. And this is by Jashideep Singh from Cinemaholic on August 24th, 2023. The article very much sees the whole thing through the lens of Tom Hiddleston, but here at Dark Tower Palaver, we are all stands of Mike Flanagan, so we will, of course, see it as Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck. The article says that film starring Hiddleston and Mark Hamill is set to begin filming next month in Alabama based on the novella from If It Bleeds. The production received a waiver from SAG-AFTRA to proceed with casting for the film, but the article makes it sound like they have no waiver for filming, so scheduling may still be very dependent on the strike. Who really knows? Again, since there's actually good talks happening right now, maybe it can get resolved and they can start filming in October anyway.
That'll be nice.
But potentially not. But yeah, if it does begin to film in October next month, I don't know. As a both a Mike Flanagan fan and as a Stephen King fan and a massive fan of Flanagan doing Stephen King, I say hook it to my fucking veins.
Yeah.
I mean, Flanagan has done Doctor Sleep, Gerald's Game, and Midnight Mass may as well be a Stephen King story.
Yeah.
And Mike Flanagan, I can't wait to see what he does with Mark Hamill here in the House of Usher here in the next week or so when it comes out.
Yeah.
Not to mention he'll be bringing Mark along for The Life of Chuck as well. All right, so next up, this is a fun one. Every Stephen King novel ranked by how close it comes to the horrors of living in Maine.
All right.
So this is by Dan Rice from The Hard Times on July 25th, 2023. This is a fun thing where the writer ranks how close each King book comes to the horror of living in Maine. He says that he always wondered where King got his ideas, and then at age 20 he moved to a small town outside of Portland, Maine, and he suddenly understood. And then a direct quote from him, he says, like many of Stephen King's characters, here I am many years later embarking to confront the evils of my past. Here is our definitive ranking of every King novel ranked from how close they come to conveying the horrors of everyday life in the godless, awful state that is Maine.
We're going to go through 75 novels?
No.
Oh, okay.
We're going to, and he only has 60-something of them, but, so we're not going to go through all of them, but we're going to hyper-focus on the Dark Tower entries. I think we're going to hit the Dark Tower entries, and then I think over the next while, I might just pop a few random ones.
Just one in every episode.
Here and there, just throw one in for the other non-Dark Tower books.
Okay.
So it's a countdown. So I'm going to go from his order from least to most living in Maine type thing. So we're not going in order of books. He also only has 70 or 64. So I'm not sure what he's leaving off. But all the Dark Tower books are here. So
is it the short story collections?
I don't know. I'm not sure I don't know what he's missing. I didn't necessarily even go through and read them all right now. I just went through and read the Dark Tower ones and put them on my list here. So number 50 out of 64 is the Dark Tower 2, The Drawing of the Three. He says, while not the scariest Stephen King novel or even the scariest entry in the Dark Tower series, it features a lot of junkies and racism, giving the reader an ability to accurately picture life in Portland. Number 40, coming in at 40 is The Dark Tower 1, The Gunslinger. He says the humble beginning of what would become the Dark Tower series finds Roland trekking through a wasteland where he tangles with mutants, horny church ladies, and people who talk really weird. It's sort of a love letter to Bangor. I mean, it's what I find the most funny too is just how much King loves Maine. I feel like we only ever see a positive take from it, and I'm sure this guy's mostly tongue in cheek, but it made me laugh, so I figured we had to go through it.
I'm pretty sure that if King read this, he would be chuckling.
Number 36, The Dark Tower 5, Wolves of the Kala. He says not the best of the Dark Tower series, but it involves a small rural community where children are robbed of their inner light and spend the rest of their lives as dull laborers, destined to grow to enormous size and die young. Sounds like one of the worst states I've ever lived in. Oh man. This cracks me up. 25, jumping up to 25, The Dark Tower 3, The Wastelands. It says Roland and company are reunited with Jake Chambers, a young boy who can't remember if he's alive or dead. Together they face a desolation, pocketmark disease pirates around every corner, and an extremely inconvenient public transportation system. This book is Maine to the bone. Oh, and then The Dark Tower 7, The Dark Tower, comes in at 19.
Hey, say thank you, Si.
I like that. He says, not everyone loved the conclusion of Stephen King's Dark Tower series, but I say if you decided to read a 4,250-page epic by a guy notorious for not writing satisfying endings, you know you're rolling the dice. The book ends with Roland restarting his adventures from the very beginning with the revelation that he has done this countless times. It's an essay on the futility of existence that only someone who grew up in Maine could channel. Oh, man, I love it. And then number 17, The Dark Tower 4.5 went through the keyhole. It says a sort of late supplemental to the Dark Tower series. This book features 3 interwoven stories bound together by the presence of freezing, howling wind, which is why it ranks so high. One does not know the true indifference God is capable of until they have felt the wind of Maine during winter.
I thought book 7 would be higher because it has Empathica.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then number 13, The Dark Tower 4, The Wizard in Glass. He says, many fans consider Wizard in Glass to be the height of the Dark Tower series. 3 young gunslingers, somewhere between boys and men, set out on their first assignment, biting at the chomp for adventure. What they find is a cruel and twisted place full of secrets, old croons, murderous failures. Any out-of-stater who went to the University of Maine can relate. Oh, and then at number 11, The Dark Tower 6, Sons of Susanna. He says, in the penultimate Dark Tower novel, Susanna births a demon engineered to kill Roland through a ritualistic ceremony of spiritual incest. Its higher ranking on this list is not meant to imply that people in Maine practice incest. It's just when a population is isolated enough, the gene pool gets sort of, well, there you go. You'll see what we mean. Oh, man.
Wow.
That made me laugh, dude. It was cracking me up. So I just went through Control F and found all the Dark Tower ones, and I'm like, let's see what all the Dark Tower ones have to say. I haven't read any of the other ones, but yeah, we'll pop through them in the future.
All right,
here.
then.
That it'll be fun. I think it's a funny little thing. All right, so I guess I actually should have put this one before, but I did update the board to cross out the Long Walk. I don't think that one. I think we can count that one as dead now, so that one will be taken off in the future. But the big board has been updated. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that's really changed? No, nothing's really come out. I think we're still pretty well up to date, except for
I haven't. No.
Except for the Long Walk. And I also told Peter before, just so everyone's not too concerned, we are speeding through a little bit, but we do have some palaver to have. So, because we are moving to odds and ends now. The first one, The Boogeyman, is now digitally available, and on October 10th it is coming to disc. So if you haven't, if you missed out on The Boogeyman, go check that out. That was a fun one. Also, The Mist is getting some 4K love. It comes out October 3rd on 4K. If you want to see
excited that one.
Oh yeah, if you want to see Mrs. Carmody in 4K.
No. No, I do not. I mean, one scene with her I do.
All right, and then the next one, this is a fun one. Cy King was caught reading at Fenway Park.
Oh, really?
In fairness, it says it was between innings. So, although as bad as the Red Sox are this year, I can probably see why reading a book might be more preferred than watching his beloved Red Sox.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool, though. I thought it was fun.
Look at that. He's reading a tablet, not a physical book.
Yeah, I could see
one
that.
of us.
I could see that. Let's see. Cody says he's always reading at the ballpark. Yeah, no, it was just funny. It kind of went slightly viral because it was just like, oh, he's reading at the baseball game. So this next one here is an interesting one. So from what my niece tells me, her name is Tay-Tay. Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That's what my 16-year-old niece informed me. So I don't know anything about it.
T Swift.
That sounds like a football player.
T Swift.
Is there a football player they call that?
No.
That sounds...
There's a couple players named Swift in the NFL and everything like that.
Interesting.
But T Swift is what I commonly have heard her referred as by my daughter and wife and Myself.
So she has a song called Hey Stephen,
Uh-huh.
and she was on the Colbert's, I almost said the Colbert Report, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yep.
And the whole gag went on where he was basically saying the song was about him.
Yeah.
And she was playing it up because she had all this like stalkery knowledge about him and stuff. She was like, just on and on. It was a fun bit, but the part at the end is the part that was most interesting to me. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Well, you seem to know a suspicious amount about me. And that song is about a guy named Steven, spelled with a PH the way I spell it. If it's not me, then who's it about?
Okay, I wasn't really prepared for this to be like an extremely hard-hitting interview.
It's what I do, Taylor. I'm sorry.
I thought
I have
you were
to get
just-
to the truth.
I came here to have a good time, but
So
if
did
you
I.
really want to know who it's about, and it
Yes,
seems
I really do.
that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
I've never revealed this before to anyone, but Hey Stephen is about Stephen King.
Stephen King. Master of horror, Stephen King. Really?
Yes, he's amazing. The Dark Tower series changed my life, plus
Oh.
The Shining, The Stand, and don't even get me started on his short stories. Absolutely
Okay.
luminescent.
I know. I agree.
So, I mean, let's not pretend that King is not all pervasive.
Oh, yeah.
in a lot of people's lives. But to hear, and I don't know much about her, but I know she's one of the bigger music stars in the business.
Big star.
To hear her say the Dark Tower changed her life, that's a different level of Dark Tower fans than we've
Yeah.
seen before. This isn't.
Hopefully some kids went and found out what's the Dark Tower is and are reading it currently.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But yeah, that also went viral. That and the Mamba number 5 were the ones that were going the most viral.
Cody says, "Oh shit, Tay Tay is a Dark Tower junkie. We need to get her on the show." Yeah, I'll give her a call. I'll get back to you.
Oh man,
The sad part is Taylor Swift is actually like one of those really good human beings that honestly, if we ever did get word to her, she very well might show up on the show. She very well might. She's done shit like that before. So
Yeah.
she's one of those like John Cena type where she likes doing things for her fans. She had a CD release party and they're like, "Well, what did you do?" I think it was on on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. She talked about it, that she brought the fans over to her house, cooked for them, and listened to the album with them, and then gave them like signed copies of it and everything like that. And you want to know how she found the like 200 people she invited? She just went through social media on her tag, like her special Tay tag or whatever her special tag is. And if they had a bunch of merch in the background and stuff like that, or posters, or they showed the ticket stubs where they'd gone to a show, like, okay, then she gave the username to her people, and they contacted them and flew them out and everything like that. Like,
interesting.
Like she's a great human being. So just everything that I've seen.
yeah,
So
yeah.
her being a Dark Tower fan makes me very happy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know we've generally seen a lot of King fandom and Dark Tower fandom in the heavy metal realm, but in pop we haven't really seen as much. Maybe it's just too off-brand for a lot of people, but
Dark Tower is everywhere, sir. We just don't realize it.
yeah. And it's the first thing she mentioned too.
The first one, not The Shining, The Stand, and It, all the popular ones, and then by the way, the Dark Tower. No, it was Dark Tower first,
Yeah, very interesting.
and it changed her life.
Yeah. I mean, whose life didn't it change?
It changed mine pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, here we are, 2023, podcasting for the 8th year on this, which is awesome. I don't know why. I've kind of lost track a little bit. I guess I haven't really been tracking the years very heavily, but 8 years, man, that's
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
In podcasting years, that's a long fucking time, man. Most podcasts don't last that long, so I don't know. It just hit me not too long ago. I think I saw my calendar like less than a week ago. I was looking at flipping through my calendar, and I have it tagged on my calendar, just Dark Tower Palaver.
Oh, you shared that with me too.
Oh, okay.
or I added it, one of the two.
Yeah,
because I have it on there too. I've been eyeballing it for a couple months. Like, hey, it's coming up.
I think what it was, I was looking for our hotel because sometimes Google like reads your emails and then adds the shit to your calendar. I'm like, did it do that? And I went to look, and it didn't show yet. I just put the thing in, but I did see that. I'm like, oh, the birthday. I'm like, oh my god. And then I started doing the math. I'm like, Jesus Christ, 8 years, like. It's almost a decade, and again, for podcasting and the internet and the age of the internet, that's pretty old.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So next up, we have Uncle Stevie Recommends. So somebody tweeted.
Is it the book that he read at the ballpark?
No, but the one that when the lady asked him in that Rolling Stone interview, somebody in the comments, I went through and looked, and they're like, "What is he reading?" Someone's like, "I zoomed in, and according to Google, it was the book that he mentioned to her that he was reading."
Oh, okay. That he had finally like he was saying
the one that he said, "I'm 75.
Yeah,
it's about time to finally
yeah.
read it." What was it? Beloved by Toni Morrison. According to the person in the Instagram comments, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But they said they zoomed in, found that was the book he was reading. So it kind of interesting then in that thing. He's like, yeah, that's the book I'm reading. So maybe that's some further evidence that that's what he was reading at the park.
There we go.
But no, his thing, somebody tweeted, said, horror / sci-fi folks, I'm looking for examples of indie films that only ever show you a glimpse of the larger scale horror. Think Pontypool or the TV news segments of Night of the Living Dead or 10 Cloverfield Lane. It says, and then not really indie, I realize. I think King retweeted him and says, Pontypool. Now there's a real creep show. So
all right then.
I think that's a pretty good for a dude that made a movie called Creep Show.
Yeah.
I would assume that's a high compliment.
Yeah.
For a guy that probably grew up on Creep Show.
And I know Night of the Living Dead and 10 Cloverfield Lane. I've seen both of those, so
yeah,
I kind of know what he's talking about. So now I kind of want to watch Pontypool.
Yeah, indeed.
Pontypool.
And then then the next one I have from him, Bloodlines, the new Pet Sematary. He says, in the book, this is the story Judd Crandall tells Lewis Creed to try to dissuade him from using the Pet Sematary. The screenplay takes a few liberties, but it's a fine story. David Duchovny is excellent. The secret, as always, is caring about the characters.
Hey, he's seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably the first person that sees every King movie, right?
Hopefully.
Like once they get their first lock of of the edit, I'm sure they show him. I mean, we know the baseball boy was changed.
We do.
In the editing process because of King. So, can you imagine the fucking nerves
Didn't Flanagan talk about how he couldn't watch it with him?
Someone did. I don't remember.
So there was someone that's like, I can't watch this with him. Like, here, give it to him.
I don't think it was Flanagan. I remember
someone
did.
Someone's like, I can't sit there sitting next to him while he watches my film.
But can you imagine the the nerves you'd have giving it over, knowing you just put your life, your blood, sweat, and tears into this project of Stephen King's. Now you're giving it to him to watch. Like, no matter how confident you might be, you've got to be like,
yeah.
That's not butterflies, so that's like pterodactyls in your stomach,
yeah.
I would imagine. So, not that it matters. I mean, King's a pretty cool guy overall, but still. And then the last thing I've got from Uncle Stevie Recommends, Stephen King tweeted and says, the calendar you never knew you needed. And it is the Pooping Dogs in Beautiful Places calendar. Have you ever seen these?
Dogs pooping in beautiful places. Yes, I have.
You've seen these? Yeah.
Yes.
So, does this not just fit King? We've talked so often about how, like, at his heart, he's still just a 5-year-old boy.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's talked about it before, that he just, like, they're like, how can you write children so well? He's like, I am just a big kid.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, that is the last bit of Uncle Stevie Recommends. Also, the mailbag is still currently empty.
So that means no jingle.
No email jingle.
No jingle. That's a shame.
But
you checked both emails, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think I did.
Uh-oh.
Well, I have the Gmail one's on my phone, so that one usually pops up. I just keep getting junk mail from that.
Nope, no, Alan, no jingle. No jingle. We have no email, so no jingle. That's the rule.
Let's see. Junk mail. I don't know where
darn it.
I don't know where all the freaking junk mail comes from. But, no, I don't see anything. Some of these junk mail ones are getting very clever, too. They act like they're actually listening to the show.
Yeah.
And they act like they're whatever, but then like at the very end they have some sales pitch about something, and it's like, fuck off. One of my almost responded, I'm like, who is Susanna married to? Just you telling me you're listening, I call bullshit.
Yeah. What's the catchphrase of the show?
What is the catchphrase of the
show? #Ted is terrible.
No.
Yes,
no, that's
it's on a fucking shirt and a sticker.
That's slander is what it is.
It's the catchphrase of the show, sir.
I have begun a Dark Tower cycle.
Oh, did you finish the book you were reading?
I did.
How was it?
It was good. It was good. Went through Gunslinger. I'm now in the second door of Drawing of the Three.
Oh, you're cruising along, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. So I'm going to go backwards on this.
Okay.
So, because I think the first one I have is a little bit of a bigger conversation. So, what do you think happened to the flight attendant who spotted the drugs? I was thinking about that this time reading. I've never really thought about it before. She spots it. Everything that happens comes down to what she saw. And when they can't find a single thing, like, I'm not thinking they're going to fire her, but I think there's probably got to be some repercussions of, like, we broke a door, we held this guy for like a couple hours, like a lot of they worked up a lot of shit over what turned out to be nothing. They're going to see her as you're just fucking crazy. You didn't see shit.
I don't know. The captain was on board with it as well.
Yeah, until when I think,
but they have like the tape residue and the puncture mark in Eddie's thing. How much do they find out about that from customs? You know, after
as
the fact,
I say, the customs guys, whatever, because they have some elements of suspicion, but just the flight crew that would have lost Eddie after he got taken out, whatever, says his feet only touched the concourse like 4 times because they were basically carrying him. I was just looking at it from that perspective of the airline side of it. It's just like all this happened because she said she saw something, and when at the end of it all, when they get a call from customs saying there's nothing and we pumped your tanks and stuff, there's nothing. I just wondered. I was like, not that it's like a big life-changing thing, but it would just be kind of one of those things. And also her, it's kind of like the whole does she start to doubt her sanity a bit? Where it's like, what the fuck, man? I swear to God, I saw.
I don't know. I wonder if she'll ever look back on it and be like, what's with the eye color changing? I wonder if she'll ever look back on it and be like, that
was the second girl. The first girl is the one that catches the eyes. It was the second girl. You were looking at his hands. I was looking up at his shirt. Yeah. So it's the second steward.
Well, the second one's a veteran. They're not going to touch her. And again, that's what they said, is that the first one is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do anything to her. She thought something was off. The second one corroborated her. I think between the two of them, what are they going to do? Punish one and not the other? I don't think they're going to punish either one of them and fire them or even write them up or anything.
I almost even just wonder, like, mentally, what does it do to her? Or it's just like, because if you've seen something,
wouldn't it be funny? Honestly, if I was the veteran one, I wouldn't put it past her to be like, yeah, customs fucked up. I mean, she wasn't there. She wasn't there for it. She doesn't know what it was, or what if they found out that it's one of those guys. We got to let him go because it's one of those CIA boys, and stuff like that. She's probably seen enough shit that she's just gonna brush it off and everything like that. The younger one though, with the eye changing and the way he was acting,
didn't that fucks with her?
I think it does, and I think eventually she leaves the job and goes and does something else.
Yeah.
She goes and becomes a secretary, or she goes and becomes an assistant engineer. She goes back to school. She does something else. She stops being a flight attendant.
Yeah,
because of Eddie and Roland.
Yeah. And again,
I'm calling that headcanon. They fucked with her head.
And it's not even like I said that it even matters a shit ton necessarily. No. But it's just one of those things. I think King is often so drawn into the normal people. And so, in this story, there's a number of normal people that get caught in the wake of this story, but we never really catch up with them, and there's no way to. It doesn't really matter. But I don't know. It made me think of kind of what what would happen there.
Yeah.
The other one that I had, and it just hit me because again I'm right at the spot. What about the disappearance of Odetta? So she was on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
She is not a anonymous rich person. She is.
Well, they talk about it a little bit, right? Like Moses mentions her, that they looked for her for a little bit.
Yeah, but I wonder, what does that look like in the immediate, because I mean, okay, they know that she disappears, and I thought of Andrew, because Andrew, because of the Detta stuff, he knows she disappears for weeks at a time. One point, he goes into her apartment thinking she fell and is dead or whatever. But it's so that's the other part of it, is what point does Andrew and the doorman, because it's the two of them that seem to be kind of in on knowing that something's up. At what point, do they actually even admit something's actually wrong and it's not normal?
A month.
And then at that point, do they call it? And I just feel what is that immediate, what does the news look like? People would be covering it, because again, this isn't just some rando rich person that lives in some McMansion and whatever. No, she's in pretty heart of of New York City. She's on the cover of Time. She's part of the movement. There's all this stuff. I just feel like she couldn't disappear without there being kind of a kerfuffle.
I bet you there was a kerfuffle. I bet you there was a citywide search and posters put up and everything like that. The question would be, what does that security guard do when he recognizes her? Is he like?
That's a good question.
Is
too.
he like? Wait a minute, that's the one that disappeared on me.
Yeah. Or I mean, because that's the other thing too is like nobody up to that point had connected Detta and Odetta, which is interesting. With her being on the cover of Time, it makes me wonder how different does Detta look than Odetta?
Probably much different. Because honestly, that wouldn't surprise me if King wrote it that way. Is that the guard saw Odetta and didn't even recognize Detta?
Because that's the thing is, the guard saw, or he saw Detta because she's stealing.
Saw Detta,
But-
so he wouldn't even recognize the posters for Odetta.
Yeah, but remember the ambulance people, like they were able to tell the instant she woke up which one it was. So yeah, I bet you there's like almost like not that it's a true physical difference, but there's enough of a difference in like how she carries herself that you'd be able to tell instantly which is which. And I cannot wait to see a great fucking actor in that role to actually embody that. What does it look like where just a quick second, I could take a screen grab and show you and you'd be able to tell me which is which.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be amazing. I mean, yeah, good stuff.
It's like those possession films, you know?
Oh, yeah.
A really good possession film like The Exorcist. You could show me a picture of Reagan, and you're like, okay, which one is later in the film where she's actually like possessed?
Yeah.
It's that
Or
one.
not even early, or not even late, but early in the movie when she's
yeah.
possessed but not like physically changing yet.
Like at the doctor's office.
Yeah, like exactly.
Like at the doctor's office where she's like rolling on the wall, like on the wall. That exactly like that. That's what you're talking about. It's like,
yeah.
I could be like, possessed, and then you see her with her mom, not possessed.
Not possessed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a number of reaction videos where people are all wondering about that last bit. You know, when she's after it's all over and she talks that, or she kisses that other priest and stuff, and there's some people like, oh my god, is she still possessed? I wouldn't trust her. I'm like, you can't fucking tell. Like, look at how she's acting. She's nothing like.
Also, you saw the demon in the father's eyes, and then he jumped out the window. So no, no.
It's just funny. I mean, this is some of the things.
People want to make mountains out of molehills, right?
So the third one and the biggest one I have is actually from book 1.
Okay.
It is the Oracle.
Okay.
And I want to talk about the Oracle in the context of we've been discussing the ending a little bit recently. I think it was on a hangout or a Patreon hangout that we discussed it last.
Okay.
Where we were talking about the ending a little bit. But the ending was more fresh in my mind. We've talked a lot about, you know, what does Flag say at the actual Palaver at the Golgotha and stuff.
Yeah.
But what about the Oracle?
What does she say?
What does the Oracle say? So I've got the whole text here. So she says 3 is the number of your fate. 3 is mystic. 3 stands at the heart of your quest. Another number comes later. Now the number is 3. And then we see in part, we see in part, and thus is a mirror of prophecy darkened. And then he says, tell me what you can. The first is young, dark-haired. He stands on the brink of robbery and murder. A demon has infested him. The name of the demon is Heroin.
Eddie.
Which demon is that? I know it not even from my tutor's lessons. We see in part, and thus is the mirror of prophecy darkened. There are other worlds, gunslinger, and other demons. There are water. These waters are deep. Watch for the doorways. Watch for the roses and the unfound doorways. The second, he asks, she comes on wheels. I see no more. The third, death, but not for you. The man in black, where is he? Near. And then she says, you will speak with him soon. Of what will we speak? The tower. Then he says, the boy, Jake. And then there's a delay. There's just some dots there. And then he says, tell me of the boy. And she says, the boy is your gate to the man in black. The man in black is your gate to the 3. The 3 is your way to the dark tower. And he says, how can that be? Why must it be? And she says, we see in part, thus is the mirror. God damn you. No, God damned me. And he says, don't patronize me, thing. What shall I call you then? Star slut, whore of the winds. Some live on love that come to the ancient places, even in these sad and evil times. Some gunslinger live on blood, even I understand on the blood of young boys. May he not be spared? Yes. How? Cease, gunslinger. Strike your camp, turn northwest. In the northwest, there is still need for men who live by the bullet. He says, I am sworn by my father's guns and by the treachery of Martin. She says, Martin is no more. The man in black has eaten his soul. This you know. He says, I am sworn. She says, then you are damned. And then he says, have your way with me, bitch. So I don't know why I've read that. I don't know how many times, but the part that really got me was the boy is your gate to the man in black. So that kind of makes sense, right? Like it's given to Roland that way when we get to that point is like you either save the kid or you're going to get me. You don't get both. One or the other.
Is it the speaking demon that says it? Is that you while you travel with the boy, the man in black has your soul in his pocket?
I think so. Yeah.
The demon under in like the cellar.
Yeah.
The speaking demon.
And then the man in black is your gate to the 3, and your 3 is your way to the tower. So I'm just looking at the mechanics of all that. So ultimately, because again, we talked on it was on that, and I know it's Patreon, so it's, but I think it's not a ton of the new conversation. I think most people should be able to still follow. But ultimately, the question was coming up of like, King saying that he believes that Roland's damnation is letting Jake drop at that point,
right.
like, and so that was fresh in my mind. And so there, it's like, so the boy is the gate to the man in black to the 3 to the dark tower, and then let's see. And he says, can he not be spared? Yes. How? Cease, basically give up. Same thing that Flag tells him later. Give up your quest and the boy could be saved. And so I think, like, I guess what I started to wonder is, like, is Roland's entire quest for the Dark Tower false? I think we've always just granted that, like, the tower needs to be saved. But it's like, is that, like, to quote Han Solo, is that just delusions of grandeur? Is it really on Roland to do this? Or is he just taking it from his father, which may not know any better, and it becomes his mission? Yes, but is it truly, if we step outside of it, does Roland matter, or can the tower defend itself?
It's the question. It's the thing that we keep coming back to, is that if Roland, Eddie, Susanna, Jake, and Oi don't get to Blue Haven, not Algociento.
Yeah, Algociento.
I always doubt myself with that. Algociento, do they break the beams? Does the tower fall?
That's the question. I guess that it comes to is like, because that's the thing we've always clung on, that as like that has to happen to something.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess now I'm just getting to a spot where I'm like, let me even question that, because there's assumptions I think that we have always made, but I think we could question those assumptions at some point too. Is it's like, does Roland truly have to go on this quest? We've already talked about it a bit. The Crimson King is stuck. Like, I don't think he's a threat. Now, yes, he has emissaries that are not stuck, that whatever. But again, like, we know that there's other forces at play, larger forces, potentially forces that, are even helping Roland a bit. But I don't know. I guess, like, this just comes down to this almost makes it brought it in a clearer definition for me, because again, we just barely discussed, like, because you weren't really super keen on, when King's saying that basically Roland's damnation is here with Jake in the first book, but and then Roland's done some other bad things certainly, but like that's the point. King says that's his moment.
Yeah, because the thing that I was bringing up on the Patreon Hangout, does that mean that the next 6 books just, it doesn't matter, no matter what he chooses, he's damned, and that's where we're having a discussion is, well, what does that mean about the door with Susanna? Because we've always talked about that's his last chance for salvation. Yeah, is it? Because the demon here says it's not. His only chance of salvation is not dropping Jake. Turn northwest. Strike out.
The demon is saying the only way to spare the boy is to turn northwest. Like, because that's what Roland's ultimately asking. Not like because Roland doesn't know at this point. He doesn't know he's damned. He's just asking, does the boy have to die? No, he doesn't. Okay, how does he not die? Turn northwest. There's still people there that need help from people like you. So it isn't necessarily the demon's not necessarily talking about redemption, because I don't think Roland understands he needs redemption yet.
Read it one more time, that passage right there.
May he not be spared? Yes. How? Cease, gunslinger, strike your camp and turn northwest. In the northwest there is still need for men who live by the bullet. And then it gets into the realm of like, I'm sworn, all that stuff. So
right before that, what is said right before that? Like where it's Jake is the passage to the 3.
Oh yeah. So he asks the boy, Jake, no answer. And then he says, "Tell me of the boy. The boy is your gate to the man in black. The man in black is your gate to the 3. The 3 is the 3 are your way to the Dark Tower." So I guess so ultimately, if it comes to the realm of like Roland's true damnation begins with Jake, then and again, I don't think that like. I do think he has chances because I think we see an evolution of Roland. I think for me, how I've always viewed it is Roland's damnation comes from the fact that he has always chosen the tower over those he loved. And I think that like the Roland that we see in this story by the end is to the point where he's going to give his life for Jake. But then the body betrays him because of the dry twist.
Yeah, because that was the other thing also is that we talked about is that why would Roland's body fail him if his whole thing is give up the tower? And see, that's where I've been kind of like looking at it in a different light is that, okay, if Roland's whole purpose is to give up the tower for the ones that he loves, he was ready to do it in Book 7. He was ready to jump in front of that van and save Jake and sacrifice himself for Psy King, which is a rose by another name and another form and everything like that to save which is a symbol of the tower, which is the tower in this world and everything. So what would stop him, and why does the pain go away once King is hit? You know, that's the thing is like it's like Roland has to get to the tower and has to do this. He has to do this. Why? Why is there a has to at that point in this story? And then later in that same book, we have the conversation that, oh, well, if this is his last chance to salvation, well, he already had one. He already had a chance for salvation, and something out there stopped him from doing it.
It was the moral failing, or not moral, but the failing of Stephen King, right? It all happened because he stopped writing
and why
the books.
Is that? But so that's Roland's damnation.
I think because Roland and King are tied together. So I think King's failure to continue writing ultimately costs himself and costs Roland.
Right. But like I just said, King is a symbol of the rose, which is a symbol of the tower. So King is the tower in a sense. So when Roland goes to save the tower, it fails him and Jake gets killed. So is the actual way to save the tower is to let King get hit? It's all confusing so it's like contradictory kind of.
Well, I think for me, I think what I've always thought of is again it's only how I view it. Other people can have different interpretations, but my view, his damnation is because he's choosing the tower over the people he loves. He was at that moment. He had worked himself up to that moment where Jake's not gonna die. It's gonna be me. But then after that happens. Mm-hmm. I think that it's kind of like losing your nerve, right?
Fuck it. He threw his hands in the air and he went, "Fuck it, I tried."
But that also could be somewhat of a cop out too, right? Where it's just like, oh well, I did my best. But because I think of like Eddie, right? Because Roland says, "Why didn't you think about shooting yourself?" He's like, because I only have one pair of pants, and if I shot and it was a dud, I would have shit myself. And and I think that's Roland had to like work himself up to that moment and it wasn't just like a spur of the moment like, no, Jake has to live, I think Roland built to that where it was like, I can't let this kid die, like it's gonna be me, not him. And I think so he worked himself up to that, but then once it all happened, I think that deflated all that out of there, and that's why I think the door is his last chance, because again he's again choosing the people he loves, because he knows some version of Jake and Eddie are in there, as well as Susanna that he would be with. So that would be his last chance to like go there. Jake is there, like kind of like Susanna. There's my husband. Roland, there's your fucking kid. Like go through that door. And that's how you'll kind of break the cycle. But I think this is just interesting because I guess I've never, I don't know. I guess just in the light of all these conversations we've had recently about the ending. It's just interesting, like the boy is the key to the man in black, the man in black is the key to the 3, and the 3 is the key to the dark tower. So it's like, because that's even interesting too. So it's like without the 3, is the tower unreachable?
No, it's not, because we've covered this a little bit. Eddie saves him from Blaine. Jake saves him from things. Susanna saves him from things. And even Jack Mort saves Roland's life.
So you're saying it's not possible then?
It's not possible.
Yeah, okay.
Roland's dead at the end of book 2, if not for the doors.
Yeah,
he is.
Oh yeah,
he's dead before doorway 1. If it's not for Eddie, he's dead before doorway 2.
Yeah,
because Eddie gets him the Anacin and the medicine from the Leaning Tower and everything like that. And where does Roland get the medicine to actually beat the infection? He doesn't get it anywhere else except door 3. Jack Mort gets it at the pharmacy. So even people want to point to Susanna, Jake, and Eddie all saved his life. Jack Mort did too.
Yeah, it's the 3.
If he didn't have Jack Mort to wear as a flesh robot, kind of thing, and march around being Terminator,
would also have
like
no bullets.
No bullets, and he would have died of the lobstrosity poisoning.
Yeah, and you would never have gotten rid of Susanna or Detta and Odetta.
Detta and Odetta would have never become Susanna.
Yeah, you never would have gotten Susanna without that as well.
No.
So it's like you couldn't have finished that mission if Detta was still creeping around. As much as I love Detta.
Yeah, Jack Mort is absolutely a jerk, but he had his role. He had a part, and he played that part. Roland needed the stuff from that door, and he got it. Without that, he's dead. He's dead before book 3 starts. So,
but it's just interesting to me because The other thing that's funny to me too is I did notice one thing is one point earlier on. I think it's in Tull. Roland says that Flag is many things but not a liar, which is.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a cliche line about villains, but it's a line that gets used a lot about villains.
Yes.
When you just need to establish a villain as like just one of those guys, they use that line a lot. Not that it wouldn't have been the same thing in '87 when King wrote this, so I'm not holding it against him. I'm just saying that it's a line we've heard a lot.
Yeah.
But then it's funny because then at the other end of the palaver, Roland's like, how much of that was just lies? I'm like, wait a minute, you said he didn't lie. Now you're questioning how much of Flag's entire thing was lies. It made me laugh because it's just like, Roland, do you even know? Because that's the thing is like,
Maybe he doesn't.
no, he maybe he doesn't. But I think the other thing that I wonder, because so much of this mimics what we're going to hear from Flag as well.
Yeah.
Flag tells him to forsake. You know, Flag tells him about the 3 doors, basically a little bit more clear than what is being told here. But it's just interesting how the two echo each other a bit. But it is interesting that both the Oracle and the Man in Black tell him to stop. It's just interesting. And again, I think that that all still fits in. Again, it's just my theory. I'm not going to hold anyone else to that theory. But my theory of like that would have been him if at this point if he chooses to not let Jake drop, that is the end of it all. He doesn't.
Yeah.
There's going to be no way to.
I have a theory that I'm currently working on. I don't know if I told you this before.
You told me you were. I think somewhere in the last.
I think during the
6
hangout
months or
when
so.
we were talking about it is because I don't want to make it seem like I'm attacking Tad's theory. Is I'm honestly poking at it. It's kind of like if I was reading a resource book for a hypothesis of my own. You know, I'm studying the evolution of geckos into alligators or whatever, kind of thing. So I'm going to go read Tad's book, who's an expert on the subject. So I'm picking Tad's brain is what I'm doing here for the theory that I'm developing, and I have notes written down and everything like that. Honestly, what it needs is I just need to reread the Dark Tower series again,
Yeah.
and pay attention to stuff. So this theory, it works when I first laid it out over what I can remember.
Yeah.
But there are things like this, I didn't remember this.
I know.
So that's where it's I
I
got to lay my theory out more when I'm reading along.
And I've read this, I don't know how many times,
yeah.
but I don't think I've ever really truly thought it through to this level. And again, maybe because that discussion we just had on the hangout was so fresh in my mind about the end. But this was just like, I actually think I re-listened to this. Like, I think I just hit skip back a few times. And I think I listened to this whole section 3 or 4 times.
You're like, holy shit.
Because I'm just like, hold on a second. And
there's some stuff said there. But here's the one thing I will say. Okay. Roland says that Flag is a man who doesn't lie and everything like that. What I will say is that this is a Oracle, and this is the Man in Black.
Yeah.
As much as we want to be like, oh, they're telling the 100% truth and everything like that, let's also remember who they align themselves with later in the story.
But I thought there was a line about that. Of course, now my Kindle's not going to pull up. There's a line about the Oracle and kind of what it can give, and I just don't think it's super. I hate Kindle, dude. The desktop app. So I swear, every third time I open it, it acts like it's installing the fucking thing and not just opens
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have no idea why it does that.
That's weird.
Yeah, I
So the Oracle says something, and you're pulling that up.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull it up.
Oh yeah, I'm while you pull that up, I'm just going to reiterate my point. Is that I'm just saying, let's not be too hasty to jump on the Flag and the Oracle are the only ones we can listen to, and since they're the ones talking to Roland, we have to listen to them. What they say is 100% true. That's all I'm saying, is that remember who they work for, kind of thing. They could be very well intentionally misleading Roland. What if they are misleading Roland because they need Mordred for something? There's a whole point of why Mordred comes about, right?
I think Flag, yes. I think the Oracle feels kind of outside,
like bound by rules and stuff like that.
And I can't find it. It's trying to find a freaking, because the problem is that it's not just like a subchapter. It's like a whole chapter is the Oracle. So there's like a shitload of stuff to go through. But yeah,
we could have a further discussion of that when we when we have a chance to do some more research and stuff like that. It'd be a good Palaver section for us to talk about. I'm just saying that's my go-to argument when it's like, well, Flag said this and the Oracle said this and so and so said this. Yeah, they all work for the Crimson King.
But here's the other thing too: is I've never really considered it. I never really put it in my head that the Oracle and the Men in Black's what they say are so aligned.
Yeah,
it's interesting how much they echo each other.
Which is kind of my point, is that if this is all coming from one source, it should sound the same if they're on the same side.
Yeah, that's my question though. Is it because I
need to go back through Song of Susanna before I say about the Oracle 100% sure. But we know that Flag works for the Crimson King.
Yeah,
and he
or
does
himself,
and he does here. So we see in book 7 where he tries to go rogue, and we see what happens with him getting his eyeballs eaten and everything like that. You know. Hashtag that's one of the best parts of the book.
Let's see. I'm just pulling up the concordance real quick to see what it has here. This is the. Oh yeah, see this is pulling up too much. This is pulling up the freaking rape demon from the drawing of Jake. Jake's other one. Yeah, I'll have to definitely do more research on that. But I think it's just a very interesting thing. And talking about like the mechanics, because again, you were especially thrown off by the idea that Roland is basically fucked from book 1.
Book 1. So books 2 through 7 don't matter. He's fucked no matter what he does. And that's the way it sounded, so that's why I just wanted to talk about it.
And yeah, I think the way I interpret it is not necessarily that he is entirely fucked, because I do still think he has moments that he could choose the right path, right? He could choose love over the tower, and he has a few of those moments. They only come later because it does take him the entire journey to evolve to that point, right? Because Roland in book 1 or 2 never would have been there sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna die instead of this kid. There's no fucking way.
So the one thing I will say about your theory, which is, I want to specify it, make it crystal clear, is that it's not just Roland crying off the tower. It's Roland picking the ones he loves over the tower.
Yeah,
but that's not what the Oracle says. That's not what Flag says. They both just say cry off the tower. So Roland could literally get to the tower steps, speak the names, drop the cross off from Aunt Talitha, turn around and walk away. It doesn't necessarily have to be the door then, right? Or does it have to be the ones that he loved? That's what I'm asking you.
I mean, potentially, but I will say I think it's pretty heavily implied though, because he's asking like, how do I not kill this? How does this kid not die? It's like forsake the tower,
yeah.
Like and yes, I guess I am connecting a few dots there, but ultimately that's what it comes down to is like you either continue down this path and this kid dies, or you don't. And I just feel like that's kind of that Superman, so and so's holding whoever, Lois Lane and Jimmy over the 2 chasms.
The Spider-Man holding the car. And,
all of them. I mean, it's probably happened to Batman. It happens to all of them.
You can't save both of them, Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like it's probably the most stupid with Superman. Like, because of course he can.
He's Superman.
With how fast he is, of course he can.
He's Superman. What are we even doing here, Lex?
Like, come on. Unless you like coated them both in kryptonite or something, I don't know. But yeah,
well, there's a thought.
But no, it's just an interesting thing. I think I have a tendency to really remember the Flag portions of book 1, but not necessarily as much the Oracle. But I think the Oracle, there's some rich stuff in there.
And then this is the same Oracle that. Well, this isn't the same Oracle. So
this is the one that tries to get Jake. This is
this is the one that tries to get Jake.
No, this isn't the
speaking
speaking
is the one
demon, right?
No.
Yeah, it's not that. It's the
the speaking demon is the one that's in the basement at the way
cellar
and has the skull that he takes with him and everything like that. But then the Oracle is the one who then rapes Susanna, because remember they can sex change.
Yeah,
and that's how we get Mordred.
And it tries to get Jake in book 1.
And
Jake wakes up sleepwalking, whatever.
Right.
And Roland then takes the freaking psychedelics and then goes to engage with this demon.
Yeah, how much can we trust Roland here? He's on drugs, for Christ's sake. What a druggie. Throw him in jail. Lock him away for 40 years, you know?
Oh, man. Dude, I cannot imagine what this kind of stuff's going to look like on screen.
It's gonna be wild.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of cool, like, you know, I can't wait to see Blaine. I can't wait to see the Dark Tower. I can't wait to see, but it's like Roland taking some fucking hallucinogens and going to engage with a fucking demon.
Alan says mescaline. He's not sure of the spelling, but is that what he takes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that sounds right. The only thing that throws me off is it sounds like it's a real medication.
Mescaline for when your knees hurt.
And then Jake's like super not into it. He's like, wait, no, I don't like this. Like, why you have to?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's basically like, why are you taking drugs? It's just
Alan makes a good point. He had it on him, so it wasn't from another world yet. He hadn't crossed the doorway.
No,
yet.
yeah, it's true. It's just the name is what threw me off. The name sounds like something that
No, but he has a valid point. Where did Roland get this from?
it was some of their world. He talks about it where it's just like people use it for like
Recreational
purposes,
specific
things, but
you want to go get high and make out?
is there are there when's a time that Roland is just like, I don't have anything for this? Feels like every time he's got like the right
Dude's
tool.
a Boy Scout.
Yeah, he's got the right tool.
He's Batman. He's got a tool belt, except he's got a pouch. He's got his purse.
He's Batman.
Take away his bat utility belt, and then he's screwed.
I guess a hat. That's the one thing he doesn't always have.
No, that flips in and out.
What do you want to see in this show? Do you want to see a hat or no?
I want to see a hat.
Okay.
Because then I want to see it get blown away and never seen again. I want to see it. I want to see it in the Battle of Tull. He's fighting and it gets knocked off his head. Like someone goes to hit him with like a 2x4, and he ducks and the hat falls off, and he never picks it up. He just leaves it in Tull.
If now I know he won't do it, but if Flanagan were to go real and just literally have it appear and disappear throughout the series, dude, that would be the chef's kiss.
I'd be so mad at Flanagan and be like, "What the fuck, dude? Pick one."
Because that's what it does in the.
I know, but pick one.
And Flanagan's like, "Hey, when I said I'm being true to the books, I'm going to be fucking true to the books." The hat just appears and disappears, and everyone on IMDb's going, "Oh, error! The hat's here in this scene and not in this scene." And
that's where we go into IMDb, and have you ever seen those where it's like
corrections,
incorrectly regarded as a continuity error? It's like no. Roland just loses his hat and then finds it later. Yeah. It's like that, like the pony that follows, the cowboy or the dog that always follows him.
Oh man,
we just had something like that in Ahsoka recently, where it's like something keeps following a character. It's like, no, go away, no, bad.
Yeah,
but
so Alan's saying mescaline is a real thing then.
Yes, it is a real thing.
Yeah. That is interesting though. So mescaline is something in our world that is then in Roland's world.
Mm-hmm.
That I guess it's another one of those things. But is this one of the few times we've seen it where it's a natural thing, like something like that's fairly specific? Like, because mescaline doesn't really fit into like the Western tropes. I'm not gonna say like horses or donkeys or whatever the fuck. Like that is a real. But it's like most of the other things we see are man-made things, sit-go pumps and the Beatles but to have like a natural hallucinogen in both worlds, that's an interesting cross pollination of the worlds a little bit. So
everyone's got to get high,
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Alan, don't ever apologize for tangents. That's what this show's all about.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. That's why I zoomed through some news.
It's because you knew this was going to be a little conversation.
I knew this would be a conversation. I didn't want to have 3 minutes to cover this topic.
That's right, Alan. Tangents. Tangents.
That's
our next shirt.
That's a shirt we need to get.
Tangents.
Dark Tangent Palaver.
Dark Tangent Palaver.
No, just Dark Tower Palaver, but then next to Tower you have it crossed out and then parentheses tangents.
Dark Tangents.
But make it to where it's clearly not the name of the show, but I don't know, just something. At one point we talked about Team Oi and Team Flag shirts as well. But
no, with an emoji. What are we going to do? A Dark Tangent podcast? DTP. It's still DTP.
Oh man,
what would be our tangent emoji?
I don't know.
So they could throw emojis in the chat when we're doing a tangent.
I don't know. I don't know. See,
this is where I wish.
I have a 5 to 10 emojis I use pretty regularly. Outside of that, dude, the rest of them are a fucking waste to me. I just they annoy me because they're in my way of finding the 5 or 10 that I actually want to use. So I'm not familiar enough with them. But
this is where I wish that we were on Twitch and we were doing Twitch streaming, because I know that you can make custom ones.
Oh.
So anyone who's good at art could draw us a tangent thing and we could literally put it in and give it to people, and then they could put it in when we do it.
Interesting. But no, that's all I've got. We are in the, like I said, I'm in the middle of door 2. There is no middle of that. Door's open and shut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have Odetta now on the beach asking about
What's going on?
What's going on, and what is Eddie doing with that knife to that nice man on the ground's throat. So that's where I'm at now. I'm guessing by the next time
What you boys doing over there?
by the next time we record, I'm not going to say I'm going to be finished with the series, but I feel like I'm going to be pretty fucking deep in a couple weeks.
Cody says a bullet skipping off a tower on a tangent. Alan says, I'm on it.
But yeah, so one more reminder before we get into our outro stuff.
There we go. There's a left turn and an up. Tangents.
That meme too.
Which one?
With the car on the freeway, and it's like the sign.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The-
Dude,
the
we
act-
gotta make, I'm gonna go make that in between shows. Hold on.
The actual topic at hand, complete random tangent.
Yep,
fucking
yep,
cars.
yep. That's us.
That is definitely us. You have to make that and send it to me. I'll throw it on the Instagram. Or do you have the Instagram sign on too?
No, I don't.
Okay. We can get that for you as well. But yeah, just a reminder, we are going back to moving the roundtables to the first episode of the month. So next episode in a fortnight from now will be a roundtable, and we will be in Randyland.
Yeah.
Going to visit Pennywise the Clown in Randyland. So
Booked our escape room last night.
yeah, got the hotel booked. I got some equipment already purchased for our on the go studio, which is going to be a whole new thing.
Yeah.
And then down the road,
Are we taking one camera, 2 cameras?
the Overlook. I
cameras?
got a second camera or a third camera.
6 cameras?
But
Are we doing multi-angles?
so we're gonna do like the news thing where it's just like the two of us on one camera.
We should put a table in front of us. Coming to you live from Las Vegas.
Well, yeah. If you don't have a table in front of you, how do they know you don't have pants on?
Wait, what?
Oh man. Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be kind of talking about and reacting to and reviewing, I suppose, the It Escape Room, and then we'll cover whatever else might come up. Hopefully, a strike ends, and maybe we'll be talking in Las Vegas about a Flanagan green light. Let's
Hopefully.
think that into the universe, right? But yeah, we have that, and then we will be back with a book club late October, and then we'll carry that through the rest of the year, just like it has. Yeah, but then I think in the future, what we're going to have to do is just decide when we have those 3 episode months, is decide so it doesn't screw us up.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. But yeah, let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick, though. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on any podcasting service of your choice. You can stream us on Spotify. You can hit us up on Audible or Amazon Music. All have podcasts now, and we are on there. If you want to join us for the live streams here, you can do that youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you want to throw some emojis at Peter, that's always fun. I do see plenty of arrow emojis in the chat now, but otherwise it's been, well, there's a few emojis for sure. So I do appreciate that. Next, if you want to do the show notes, you can do that at darktowerpalaver.com. I'll have links for all the stuff that we talked about here, including things like the trailer for Pet Sematary. I can't remember. I feel like
And
there
the
was,
article with the Stephen King interview.
Yeah, there's a number of articles too, but I feel like there's one other thing. No, I think it was just the trailer that I specifically called out that would be. Oh, and I'll have the links for all the graphic novel omnibuses that are on their way here in the next month and a half. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. There you get access to our Discord service, as well as our Discord server, where we have all kinds of shenanigans all throughout the week. And yeah, I can't even remember all the stuff we've talked about, but it was getting busy. One day I was like, man, I'm chatting on freaking Discord more than I'm even like texting or anything.
It was Thursday, and I could not keep up with it because I was busy at work and everything like that. I was like, holy hell. I got home and I just kind of like perused through and responded to a couple things, and I'm just like, man, that was awesome.
Yeah. And then the monthly hangouts as well. But we will also hand it over to Peter to let us know how to contact us if you want to add to that email bag that is currently empty, because there is no email jingle without emails.
That's right.
Even that little menace child-attacking creature
Hey, stop it.
agrees.
Stop it. Stop slandering him. You can email us as darktowerpalaver@gmail.com, or our new email, it's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. Our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Instagram is Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise, tpublic.com/users/Dark Tower Palaver.
Yes, indeed. So we will be back in Randy Land. I also, because I have not, a few things went sideways on me. I don't necessarily have a link for the new Geekery Abides episode that's coming up in a short few minutes. But you can find us over there at Geekery Abides on YouTube. We will be live streaming Ahsoka parts 5 and 6. Yes. The numbers all jumbling. in my
Live
head.
streaming?
What?
Did you say live streaming?
We'll be streaming our episode.
Oh,
here, talking
man,
about.
I thought you said we were streaming the episode. I'm like, Dad, we're going to get taken down. We can't do
No,
that.
no. No, we would we can't do that. YouTube would destroy us.
That's what I'm saying.
We will see you guys in a few weeks or in a few minutes, depending on if you're joining us over there. But
Yep.
otherwise, we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank y'all for joining us. Thanks for being part of the conversation. It's always great.
Cody says I'm going to send an email just to hear the jingle.
I honestly, I've kind of noticed a little bit is I think when it came down to is once we started doing the live streams and people are able to join in and chat along, I think that really cut down on emails quite a bit just because people communicate real time instead of sending emails, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if emails can be had, it's always
They
fun.
just put their thoughts in the chats and everything.
Yeah, it's always fun, indeed. But we'll see you guys in a fortnight from sunny Las Vegas. Hopefully it's not too hot down there.
Probably won't be.
I mean, hopefully it's not like thousands of degrees with a mushroom cloud. It is Randy Land.
I am going. Maybe I make it happen.
What about me?
No, good guys make it happen. Bad guys don't nuke Randy Land.
I'll just jump over flag. I'll protect you.
You try and shield him with your body.
All right, see you guys.
Bye, everyone.